Time to check in with Elliot Friedman for a little 3 of 31 brought to you by GMC. We are professional grade. Friedge, welcome back to the show, my friend.
Coaches, the enemies of fun, aren't they?
yes, they are. I don't know if I can deal with the two Western guys on the same show, but I will have to deal with the two Western guys in this. Let's start there. What's the counter to a 10-goal game?
Tim, don't ever be jealous. Tim, don't ever be jealous of a high-quality education, okay?
I would counter, but I did go to Carleton. So I'll just continue on. And I got in trouble saying that once before, but I'll say it because Friedge and I are both dropouts. But whatever. All right, Friedge, let's get to this point here.
Worked out better for one than the other.
The counter, yeah. One guy's in Vegas, the other guy's sitting beside you.
Yes, true.
Yeah, you are correct. All right, let's get to the counter from these two teams, Friedge. Is it a low-scoring game? Is it that they count? Or will the first goal determine the way the first goal is determined in much of this playoffs?
Well, I just don't think that Vegas plays too many low-scoring games. I think Washington will try to do that. You know, they are a bit of a trap team. They've been successful in the playoffs using it. But I just think that Vegas forces the pace and pushes you so much. The only way that you get a low-scoring game is if the two goalies stand on their heads, which is not an impossibility. So I think the one thing you can count on is Vegas tends to play exciting games. So even if we don't get as many goals as we got in game number one, I think the pace and the way the game will be played will at least be entertaining, I hope.
I love that there's an instrumental behind you as the in-arena crew is playing some music. And I think that's important because we know how long the pregame ceremonies have been, how elaborate. But you mentioned the goalies standing on their heads. For me, in game one, they both looked uncomfortable. Like they never really got comfortable, made some timely saves, but weren't themselves. How much of the pomp and circumstance do you think actually affected the two netminders?
You know, Donovan, I think it's a great question because I do agree with you. I thought that both goaltenders at times had trouble finding the puck or figuring out where it was coming from. I had a conversation yesterday with a general manager, and we were talking about the whole spectacle, and I love it. I can't get enough of it. I want them to pour the Vegas cheese all over this arena. I can't get enough of it. But the one thing he said was, he said, as a fan of the game and a fan of the league, he loved the Michael Buffer. He said when Buffer walked out and started introducing the Capitals and the Golden Knights, like he thought as someone who supports hockey that it was awesome. And then he said, now if I had my team in there, I would have been a little nervous because all of a sudden those players were standing there for about 10 more minutes than they were used to, and he thinks that did have an effect. Now, I think tonight, you know, we're having a performance by the Imagine Dragons, and it's going to kind of change the way the pregame is going to go. I think tonight both teams are going to keep their players in the dressing room for a bit longer and then have them come out later to kind of adjust to that. And I like the fact, Donovan, that the league is saying we're going to adjust it that way so we can still have the show, but we can find a way for the players to be more ready. Because, yes, I think on top of all the nerves and all the excitement, you're playing for the Stanley Cup, you get this new wrinkle thrown at you, and I think it did throw a couple guys off, although we all loved it.
You guys all loved it. I don't know if I'm enjoying all the cheese.
You didn't like it?
Nah, I'm almost like.
Come on, like Tim.
We're above this.
You are so wrong.
Why?
You are so wrong. I cannot. I'll tell you why. Like, just as a guy here, like I've been at Hockey Night now, I think 15 years. I've covered, I think, 19 of the last 20 Stanley Cup Finals. The most time texts I've ever gotten or requests I've ever gotten for tickets were the last 2 years in Nashville and here in Vegas. I get people I don't even know really or don't want to know texting me and saying, if I get there, can you get me tickets?
Right.
And you know why? Because it's different. It's new.
So let me ask you this. Let me ask you this.
I think that, okay.
Let me ask you this. Why doesn't the NHL embrace this kind of personality anywhere else except for these two cities that force it upon them? Because if it wasn't so out of the ordinary, I wouldn't have a problem with it. But the rest of hockey culture suppresses any sort of personality, and then two places show a little bit of it. Everyone's like, oh my gosh, this is awesome. I can't get enough of this. Give me more of it. It's like, okay, give you more of it. You could have had it for the last 20 years, but you've been suppressing it. Like, do you not see the contrast between the one and the other? And I wasn't going to explode, but I felt like I was eating it there for a second.
You know what? This pains me to admit, but you do have a point. And I think that
Does pay
this
you.
league is slowly. I think that this league is slowly changing. I
Yeah.
do. I think the next generation of player, and Donovan, you're in your 30s, I believe. Tim and I. Tim, are you in your 40s
Yeah,
yet?
I'm there. Yeah.
Okay, I'm 47. I believe the next generation of young player will not allow this to continue. I think they are bursting at the seams to be active on social media. I think they are dying to show their personalities. And we're starting to see more and more of it with the way they walk into the rink and their great suits and the Braden Holtby in the last round with his terrific hat.
Yeah.
I think we're going to a moving to where a guy like PK Subban stood out to there's going to be more and more people like that. And I think the thing that hockey has to understand, and both of you played football, which is a big-time team sport, is that you can be a flamboyant guy or have some fun tastes or do interesting things, and you can still be a team player. And I think that is the thing that hockey has struggled in understanding in the past, and I believe that's coming, and I think the sport is going to have to recognize that you can have a personality, you can show up in a great suit, and you can have fun, and you can still be a team player. And hockey is going to be forced to adapt to that with this next generation of player.
I agree with the generation of player, Freach, but any whether it's business or sport, everything comes from the top down. And when you look at leadership, it's not that much different in the NHL. Lou Lamoriello doesn't want you to have facial hair. So I don't think, no, honestly, so I don't think he's going to be okay with guys showing up in a Corvette that's branded by the team. Like I think this is a unique case because of where the team is, and it's in Vegas.
Yes, right now I have to concede that you guys are more right than me. But I just get a sense that the line is here, or
Yeah.
was here a couple years ago. Nashville moved it here, and Vegas moved it here. And, if Winnipeg had made the Stanley Cup final, you look at what was going on Donald outside the arena. I think now the league should be pushing every city that Montreal's already there. Like Montreal, when you go to a game, it's an experience. We know Nashville, Vegas, you go to a game, it's an experience.
Yeah.
Every city, the team should be pushing every city in the league that when you go to this rink, you're getting your city's experience. You're getting your city's identity. People want that. The amount of people who wanted to go to Nashville last year, and the amount of people that want to be here in Vegas this year, it shows to me that hockey fans are craving for that.
Yeah.
Like, in Toronto, maybe we should give them an experience where you go to a game and nobody's looking at each other and everybody's looking down at their phones, like the true Toronto experience. But, I just think that every city should be saying, when you go to a game in Vancouver, you're getting the Vancouver experience, whatever that is.
Right.
When you're going to a game in San Jose, you're getting the San Jose experience, whatever that is. You know what? You mentioned Lou Lamoriello, Donovan. He's one of 31 and soon to be 32. There's nobody else like him. Now, that's his way, and I will say this. I believe his way was needed in Toronto, just like I believe his way is needed now in New York. But it's not like that anymore, and slowly the line is moving. And maybe it doesn't move as fast as people like it, but we're getting there.
What's funny is I'm going to agree with you halfway here, and I think what's different about the three of us having this conversation is we like all sports. Like, we are guys, we'll embrace the culture of hockey, but we like football, we like basketball, and we've seen every other sport do this, and I wondered if hockey just embraced that we were different, because I know that there are a lot of people that want to make hockey different, and I'm saying pick one, but if you're going to say it's city by city, I'm good with that. If you have, because I think more people will be talking about this than the ins and outs of the games, because I think in the end, there's a lot of Canadians looking at it and going, I love this or I hate this, and I don't think there's any in between. Like, I think there's people just saying this isn't
That's fine.
hockey, or saying, you know what, I love this, we need to see more of this.
You know what, Tim? It's like, what's the worst reaction you can get? No reaction, right?
Yeah, right.
Like, one way or the other, people are passionate about it. And, like, I tweet out, like, during all, like, the other night, like, I tweeted out, I just can't get enough of this, as it was all going on.
Yeah.
And some people are tweeting at me like they thought it was awesome. Some people are tweeting at me like this is stupid.
Right.
I love it. I think there's a lot of people like me who love it. And I hope that if hockey has to be dragged into this kicking and screaming, I want it to come, and it can't come fast enough.
Quickly before
And
we let you.
Nick is beside me giving. By the way, Nick is right next to me.
Oh,
He's
he
giving a
loves it.
thumbs down.
Yeah, but he loves the thing. He loves the Vegas thing. I
Quickly
see him tweeting all the time.
Yeah, 100%. Before we let you go, and we're having an old school, new school hockey conversation, and you talked about the experience. Let's talk about the Wilson experience, and I don't think he can actually change who he is. We talked about this yesterday, and we felt, me and Tim, that it should have been suspension, but I think we're in the minority. Most people don't.
Yeah.
How do you feel and why?
I don't think it was a suspension. I think, Donovan, it should have been a penalty during the game, a 2, or if they wanted to give him a 5, they could have given him a 5. But I don't think it was a suspension. You know, people look for consistency, Donovan. If you look at the NHL's history, they generally don't suspend for that. Like, it has to be far more brutal for that, for there to be a suspension. I tweeted out an example at the end of the game the other night. It's from a few years ago, Bobby Farnham of New Jersey on Dmitry Jaskin of St. Louis. That was one that Farnham got 4 games for, and it was far worse than what Wilson did to Marchessault. So I tell you guys one thing, though, tonight. I do believe that, you know, the microscope is always on Tom Wilson. It's really going to be on him tonight. He is not going to be able to breathe at someone the wrong way without getting a penalty.
And if he changes his game, though, that's not good for the Caps because he's a big part of what they do.
No. He's a good player.
Yeah.
You know, like
Yeah.
there's a bit of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde there. If he could do a better job of controlling the Mr. Hyde, he'd be a hell of a player.
Freege, always enjoy the conversation. Tell Kipper to get out of there and go get something to eat or do something else while we're doing this hit. Stop trying to hog the spotlight with his thumb, and we'll talk to you soon.
All right, guys, take care. Donovan, good to see you bring some class to the show. Take care, guys.
Anytime, go Stanks.
Right. Throw up the dubs, and I would have gotten into a fight with you guys here.